Peak, here to give my speech called Fishing Done the Easy Way. My audience member is my sister today, Vianna Peak. Alright, so everyone has some sort of fear, something that creeps them out, gives them the chills, and makes them think about possibly investing in pepper spray. Whether it's a fear of heights, small spaces, or bugs, there's always that one thing that makes the hair on the back of people's necks just stand up. So you're probably wondering then, what could be that one thing for me that gives me the ultimate chills, that outranks anything else on my creepy chart? And that would have to be the unknown. Now, as strange as that may seem to some, I promise that by the end of my story it'll make a little bit more sense. Now to begin, I'll just give a little brief intro into where my story takes place. Involves a nice summer day, pretty much tubing, relaxing, having fun, and a very terrified girl. Let's just say that sometimes when it comes to tubing, it's not all fun and games, especially when fish are involved. This story takes place around 10 years ago, which would make me about 10 or so, while I was vacationing with my family in Texas. My family at the time included my father, brother, and sister. Anyways, we were staying with my aunt and uncle up at their trailer by the lake, which they had at the time. And being in Texas, the summers were scalding and miserably hot. So what better way to pretty much spend those hot days than in the lake? And that's exactly what we did. We swam, we relaxed, we rode around in my uncle's boat, and we pretty much enjoyed ourselves to the fullest extent, which pretty much is off the charts for a 10-year-old. However, as fun as I was having on vacation, on the lake, not in Iowa, there is one day that will always stick out to me as having a lasting impression on myself. But before I go any further, I guess I should probably tell you that before this incident, I didn't necessarily have a disagreement to swimming in any lake or big body of water for fear that something would somehow sneak up from the dark abyss and snatch me up. Anyways, back to the story. It was pretty much like any other day that we'd spent. We started it off by riding around my uncle's boat on the lake, enjoying the weather as we were lucky enough to catch a light breeze. But then my uncle decided that he wanted to take us tubing. And since it was my first time and my siblings' first time, we weren't about to say no. So, before we started tubing, us kids decided to make a little game out of this. We would see who could stay on the tube the longest before getting either knocked off or losing their grip, and whoever did stay on the longest won. So my brother went first. My older brother, Timon, as hard as he tried to stay on, he eventually got knocked off, although he did manage to stay on quite long. Next, my younger sister, Clarissa, decided that she wanted to go, and although she didn't last quite as well, she did end up getting thrown from it, and it was quite funny to watch as she was bouncing up and down. So that left me, the last one to go, and although I didn't know it and my siblings didn't know it, my uncle was purposely taking sharp turns around the corner to purposely knock us off. So, as I was getting on the tube, I remember being nervous because it was my first time, and I remember watching my brother and sister get knocked off, which did not help me any. And since my uncle was purposely trying to knock us off, it made for an interesting tubing experience. Anyways, it started out pretty calm and slow, and I quickly went faster and a lot more rougher as the tube hit wave after wave, which sent it up and down, up and down. And then pretty much about a minute later, I ended up getting thrown off of the tube, and I remember hitting the water, swimming up to the surface, and then quickly waiting for them to loop back around and pick me up. Only then did I notice that my brother, uncle, and my dad were all pretty much laughing and pointing at me, and it wasn't until my dad yelled, "Look, Terry," my uncle, "Vianna's caught a fish," that I managed to look right next to me, and pretty much so close that I could touch it was the biggest dead fish I had ever seen. And it wouldn't have been so bad, but then that quickly changed as my brother decided to yell, "Watch out, there's more coming for you!" And so that pretty much put me in sheer panic mode, as I imagined hundreds of terrifying huge fish pretty much coming up from the dark abyss of the water and coming up to snatch me. And so then that pretty much made me frantically swim towards the boat. Looking back though, it probably wouldn't have been so bad if I hadn't just recently started watching horror movies involving various terrifying sea creatures. So even though tubing is a fun and enjoyable way to spend time at the lake, it can also be very terrifying for a 10-year-old when a huge giant fish, dead fish, is involved. I don't find myself completely traumatized from this event, but I do tend to find myself making sure my feet can touch the ground whenever I'm at the lake or reservoir swimming.